Next tip. So when you make your map or you download a map of the area where you want to hike, trail run through, make sure that if it's something like what I'm doing today where I'm combining different colored trails to make a long loop, that you put arrows to indicate where you need to actually make the turn on those colored trails. Because the truth is, if it's like one turn, that's easy to remember. 2 or 3 turns, let alone like 5 or 6 that I'm doing today, that's going to be very difficult to remember. And you never want to be in a situation where you basically wonder, oh no, am I supposed to turn here or there to get back? Now you can improvise, but it's just so much better to edit the map, put some arrows on it. I use Canva for that, and that just makes it easier for you to remember which direction to go into. So interesting development. I came from over there around that huge boulder, and as I'm walking over here, I don't really see any trail signs for a while, so I'm going to continue with that tip that I gave, which is I'm going to keep walking. If I don't see anything, I'm going to backtrack to the previous trail sign. One thing you may want to keep in mind is that sometimes this may not look like a trail, but this tree trunk over here, you're going to see something very interesting that tells you that you are on a trail, which is it's cut off like somebody cut it off with a saw, and that indicates to me that there were people here, likely because this is a trail. So I'm going to continue following in this, because as you can see, as I keep going forward, you're going to see more trees that are cut out very nicely, like people use the chainsaw for that. I'm just going to keep going a little bit forward, a little bit more, and then if I don't see anything in the next maybe 100, 200 feet, I'm just going to backtrack to where I came from. Okay, so further development, that rock that I showed you with the blue sign on it, after that I couldn't find any trail markers, so I backtracked to the last orange marker, which is over here. And while this looks like the path to continue, I'm noticing that there's a tree that I missed. Maybe it was the sun glare, maybe I was looking down. I make these mistakes too, folks, so nobody's perfect. And apparently I have to make a left turn that takes me up there. And if you look closely, you will see the next trail marker up there. So that was the wrong way. Backtracking put me back on the right path, which is going up there. And you would never guess that this is the right trail were it not for spotting these markers. So be careful. That could have gotten me into a bit of trouble. But hey, this happens to everyone. I told you, it's easy to get lost, even for advanced people. So path continues up there. It's just further indication that I'm going the right way. There's the marker on the rock. I guess I have to continue in that direction. The good news is I'm not worried about going too far away from the trail now. There it is. There's the next marker. So this is going to take me to a beautiful overlook. Came from there. Markers indicate I have to go there, and as tempting as it is to go in there, which I imagine is a good fireplace spot, I actually have to go this way. Now, turning around here, the trail that I came from was down there, so it may feel like I'm circling back around, but I checked the map, and it's not the case. In fact, right here, the next turn continues in this direction. So I know I'm not going in a circle. So, again, refer back to the map. So I have to go up here now. Up, came through there, trail continues that way, but it's a nice little scenic overlook. This might quite possibly be the highest point that I've ever been on in Harriman State Park. It's really beautiful up here, but the journey continues. On we go. So I've summited, I've been running for a while now, and based on the map, I should be getting close to the area of this trail where the orange trail connects with the blue trail for just a little bit, and I'm going to be on that trail for maybe about a quarter of a mile, possibly half a mile. So I'm on the lookout to make sure that I don't miss it. I really can't because this trail only goes one way, but still, it never hurts to be extra careful, especially with the previous situation that I had. I knew I had that feeling for a good reason, because I came from there, and look at this. There's another fork in the road. That is the blue and orange trail that I'm looking for, and that's the blue trail where, if you remember, I was on that when I switched over to the orange trail. I said that blue trail continues off. That's where it goes. It comes from there. So it comes up here and it continues here. Now I'm going to be on the orange and blue trail. And this is very important because sometimes you're going to be in situations where you have to cross two trails that intersect together. And this is something you have to be aware of, because sometimes you'll have two trails merge and stay together for a while. So in this case, you'll see it as like a zebra stripe kind of thing, the blue and orange. And the thing is, sometimes, like with this park, they trick you sometimes. And by that, I mean, I just crossed the blue and orange marker, and well, look at this. Now it's back to orange marker. So not always will you see blue and orange together when you're on the blue and orange trail. Sometimes it'll be just the blue, sometimes it'll just be the orange, and look at that. The next one is blue and orange again. So the first time I encountered this, I was freaking out. I was like, what the hell? Why am I not on the right trail? What's going on? And then I continued a little bit more forward. That's when I realized how they do it this way. So just be careful. So sometimes it'll show up like this. Sometimes it'll just show up as blue. Sometimes it'll just show up as orange. This is why you have to always refer back to the map. Okay, so that mixed trail didn't go on for a while, for a long time, like I predicted, well, like the map showed. And now there's a split. To the left continues on the blue trail, which leads to what's known as Seven Hills. You gotta look at the trail marker. And to the right, the orange trail continues. Now, the way that I'm doing this trail is that I'm gonna continue on the orange trail. It's going to cross the black trail, and the black trail is gonna go around and actually take me to Seven Hills. So I can either take the shortcut to Seven Hills this way, or I can kind of go around and then it's going to merge with a black trail that's going to take me there anyway. So I'm kind of doing like a square kind of approach to it, because I just wanted to see more overlooks, and this is the way to do it. So it's basically going to circle me back to Seven Hills. But for now, I'm continuing on the orange path. And it's important to know that when I did cross this fork in the trail, which way to turn? Do I turn left? Do I turn right? Usually these trails, like, it's the only trail that's there, but you will have cross trails. Sometimes it'll be a two-way intersection. Sometimes it'll be three. Sometimes it'll even be four. And in this park, you have all these sorts of situations. In this case, I know I have to turn right when I got to that fork to continue on the orange trail. Another tip I have, which is optional, I keep it in the back pocket, sort of, is have some kind of Trails app installed. So I typically use AllTrails, a very reliable app. But the thing about this particular app is that sometimes it's not going to show you every single possible trail. I sometimes use it as like, hey, if I'm lost, maybe I'll open up AllTrails and it'll show me as a GPS signal where I am. So you can download the maps, then you can see where you are so you don't get lost. But on places like where I'm at today, from what I've seen, AllTrails doesn't have all of these trails. Not to mention the fact that they don't show all the customized trails like the one that I'm doing today. So that would actually confuse me, which is why I have the regular map, my own knowledge and skills on that, which is what you should also depend on yourself, because if you're always depending on maps to show you where to go, like a constant GPS, you're not developing your own skills and knowing how to navigate these things. Because what if, the GPS doesn't work? What if you're not familiar with this kind of stuff? You don't want to be stuck in that kind of situation. So that's on the back burner, the AllTrails thing. So I do have AllTrails installed just in case if I need to use it. But most importantly, I have a map that I have arrows on, and I have my own knowledge of where to go and what to do so I don't get into these situations. So now, trail continues there, but here's the thing. I got to turn in this direction. So once again, use the markers. Followed the trail markers up to this last one, and then I went up there. And the problem is I didn't see any other trail markers. I'm going to go back up there again, but I went up there and then to the left, about 200 feet, didn't see anything else. So again, backtracking is so super duper important to the last checkpoint, which is this one. Now I'm going to try one more time to go up there and see if I can find any more trail markers. But if I can't, my fallback plan is to go back the same way I came through, back to that last fork that I crossed, one that said Seven Hills on it, and then I'll take the blue trail back. So the way that I kind of structured this loop is that if maybe I was tight on time, maybe if I got lost, maybe if I couldn't progress, I would have a plan B and a plan C just in case to get back to the parking lot. So I'm not quitting on this trail just yet, but I want to make sure that if I go forward that I know where the trails are. And if they aren't, I'm going to play it safe and go back to the intersection of the orange and blue trail. So that's just certain situations you might find yourself in, so be careful. So I came up from there where the last marker was, and originally I went in that direction because, again, this looked like a trail, but there were no markers in that direction. So I circled back, came back there, came up again, looked to the right, and boom, there's the next trail marker. It's hard to see, but the first one is pretty light, but the one behind it, you can barely see it. The orange one is there. Now, to determine whether I should have turned right or left, I actually looked at the map, calculated where on the map I was. I basically found where that last fork was between the blue and the orange. And further up, I just saw which way the trail shifted, which is to the right. So I looked to the right, and lo and behold, here it is. So these things happen. Don't worry about it. When you're more familiar with the trail and you've done it before, then you know. But this is a trail I've never been on before, so everything here is new to me. So yeah, that's just something to be aware of. Don't freak out. I had a plan B and even had a plan C, which is circle back completely, just backtrack to the beginning. So just extra precautionary tips. There's the next marker, so I'm going in the right direction. I came from over there, and up there's like a little summit. There were no orange markers. So I had to kind of use my own intuition and instinct to see where to go, and you develop that after a while. So I kind of just made sure that I always knew how to head back just in case. But I walked and walked, and I followed what looked like a path, and here's the next marker. So the path continues, and you will develop an instinct for this. Now, it doesn't mean you're always going to be right, but in this case, I was right. So I'm going to continue along this path as planned. The good news is after I went down that summit, the orange marker started popping up a bit more frequently. And one thing I want to talk about is what to bring with you on your hike. Now, depending on what kind of hike you do determines the answer to that. Generally speaking, you know, bare necessities are a lot of water. I have about 2.5 liters with me. I have a hydration drink with me, because you can't just drink water. One thing to understand is that if you drink nothing but water on a sunny day like this, you're going to sweat. Salt is going to come out of your body and you're going to get cramps, and that's the situation I found myself in. So I have a hydration drink that makes sure that I don't have that issue happen. So energy drinks typically are a good thing for that, to prevent that from happening, but definitely make sure that a majority of the liquids you bring is water. So for a hike like this, 7 to 8 miles, 2.5 liters for me at least is plenty. Now, if you're in a situation where you're not sure, take extra water, take an extra bottle or two, because this park where I'm at, there's very few sources of fresh water available, especially the higher up you are. And you don't just, the last thing you want is to not just be lost, but also be lost without having any source of water. So in my case, I'm being a bit more conservative with the water that I'm drinking, because it's not really that hot today, maybe about 70 degrees, and I am sweating because it's just going to happen when you hike, no matter what kind of weather it is. But the hotter the weather, generally speaking, the more water, the more hydration drinks you want to bring. In terms of snacks, I would bring something that doesn't give off a scent. So don't bring any kind of sandwich, anything that smells, and the reason why is because there are animals around here, and you don't want them to sense you. So maybe some kind of energy gel is fine, something with a lot of calories. Just make sure you eat a lot before you go on a hike like this, because you're going to be burning a lot of calories as you do it. I didn't bring any snacks with me on this one because I didn't think I needed it, but that's just for me. I've been doing this a while, so I know my limits, what to bring, what not to bring. In your case, do a safer hike if you're new, and just play it safe just in case, because it's better to have extra stuff and not need it than not have extra stuff and need it and be stuck in a tough spot. I summited again, zigzagged up the summit from here up to here, and now we are at another crossroads. Now, here's the thing. I am looking for the black trail, which happens to be that black circle, and I have to go left if we analyze the map. Now, I could keep taking the orange trail, and it's going to take me back through another path that I've actually been on already, and that'll still circle me back to the parking lot eventually, but I want to take a bit of a shortcut because I'm getting pretty tired. So sometimes you'll see these kinds of intersections versus on the tree, and I know that I have to go that way. It may not seem clear from here, but with these markers, I know that's the case. So path continues this way, and this is going to supposedly take us to the Seven Hills area that I was talking about earlier, which is an intersection with the Blue Trail. That's going to be the next one that I have to pass by. So there's the marker. I am now on the black trail, continuing on this custom loop.